so much for joining me today on this Thanksgiving Sunday. I'm going to be talking to you today about rainbows and other miracles. So let's start by defining miracle. It is an amazing event, a marvelous example, an extraordinary manifestation, sometimes going beyond the laws of nature. It is an act of God. Let me ask you, when did you experience your first miracle? Has something to do with your birth. Theoretically, we have to go back 9 months before that, to the time when you began as a tiny, teeny, little microscopic egg. And you were floating down your mother's fallopian tube, completely unaware that swimming wildly toward you were 100 million sperm. And one of them got there first. And you had your own Big Bang. You had your first sex. You became fertilized. It must have been wonderful. And then you found a cozy place to snuggle into in your mother's womb, where you received room service or womb service for the next 9 months. And then you emerged, this tiny, perfect, precious being. Now you know it could have turned out differently any step along the way. You were one of about 500 eggs that your mother released in her lifetime, and all the rest of them, except for your siblings, disappeared, never to be heard from again. And then you were chosen by one sperm out of about 100 million. You were not rejected, ignored, overlooked. No, you were selected, and it all happened. And here you are. I consider that a miracle. And then you came in with this amazing life energy, this life force. Eckhart Tolle defines God as the power of life. So you came in with this power of life, this amazing curiosity. Have you ever locked eyes with a baby? I mean, it's magnetic. You can't turn away. It doesn't matter how little or new they are. Those little eyes have 100 million receptors in them. And then, as a baby, you begin exploring your world with your mouth, with your hands. You begin to crawl, you begin to walk. My youngest daughter, Megan, on her first birthday, do you think she cared about the fabulous chocolate teddy bear cake that I baked for her, spending the whole morning? No, she could care less. She smeared the frosting around a little bit. Do you think she cared about the horde of relatives and friends that came to celebrate her on that day? Nah. She had one purpose. She was single-minded. On that day, she decided she would walk. So she spent the whole day standing up and falling down, standing up and falling down, standing up, taking one step, falling down. But by the end of that day, that girl could walk. And then, of course, the babies make sounds, these wonderful, cooing little sounds, and then they make words, they talk, and they become brilliant. Because those little brains have 100 billion neurons in them. Approximately the same number as we're told there are stars in the heavens. And these brains also have star-shaped cells in them that feed our long-term memory and our capacity for this magnificent imagination, so that in altered states of mind, we can actually dance with those stars. Not the ones on TV. The ones up there. The other thing that small children come in with is this amazing confidence, this belief in themselves, this conviction that they can make anything happen. Marianne Williamson says that miracles arise from conviction. Children have that. If you ask a room of 5-year-olds, who in here can dance? The whole room went, I can't, me. And if you ask them who can sing, I can, me. Who's going to become president one day? I am. An amazing openness, belief, conviction, ability to be surprised. When my oldest grandson, who's now 10, was about 2 years old, he went running into the kitchen one morning and he said, Mommy, guess what? My penis has a battery. He'd noticed something that morning, right? There it was. And he knew that all of his toys that moved had batteries. So he was smart. He realized he must have a battery pack somewhere inside. And of course he did. It was just a different kind of energy. When he was 3, he'd get up from a nap, especially if there was company in the house. He'd come running out yelling, I'm awake! As if to say, now the world can go back into motion because I'm here. When he was 5, I went over one day on Friday's Grandma Day. And I said, Ethan, what should we do today? He said, let's take over the neighborhood. And I thought, wow, what cartoons are you watching? You know? But I said, well, okay, how would we do that? And he thought for a minute and he said, I don't really know. So we brainstormed a little and then we decided we would leave taking over the neighborhood to another day and we'd go to the Natural History Museum. But what I loved about that is that he already knew the correct way to pray. His business is to know the what. God's business is to show us the how. Doesn't matter. He knew what he wanted. So that's an amazing energy that's possible. The kind of sad thing is that if you ask the same group of children 2 years down the road, now they're 7 or 8, who can sing? A few hands will go up. Who can dance? A few hands will go up. Who's going to grow up and be president? Well, maybe no hands will go up. What's happened? Well, now they're in school. They're learning to sit in a certain place. They're learning how to read and how to write and do numbers. And these are all necessary things. But the left brain becomes dominant. And there's something else. I read research that says that 85% of the communications that children receive, 85% are negative. They hear what they can't do, what they must not do, what they must be careful of, and what will happen to them if they do these things. So they learn to sense that the power that used to be in here is no longer here, it's out there. And of course this happens to us more and more so as we grow older. We compare ourselves to others and come up feeling short. Things happen to us, and a lot of things happen to us in this long span of midlife we call the new midlife, which is our 40s, 50s, and 60s. Loss and change and limitation. It happened to me some years ago when I was divorced after 35 years of marriage. I suffered a skiing accident that left me with broken bones, with a head injury, and there had been a romantic breakup. And I learned from my cardiologist and then from Johns Hopkins that there's now a new cardiac diagnosis. It is stress cardiomyopathy, or broken heart syndrome. So our grandmothers were right. It's possible to die of a broken heart. Fortunately, most of us don't die, but we can suffer tremendously from a broken heart. And the head injury left me quite impaired. I had no memory, I had no orientation, And there was no assurance that I would ever regain my mental functioning. So I was in pain from broken bones, I was in pain from my head injury, and I became depressed and had panic attacks. And I had many, many resources for healing. And 3 of those resources, in fact, I used so many healers that this current book I wrote, Midlife Crash Course, received the Reader View's Best Alternative Health Book for 2012, because everything imaginable I did.